The alarm bells rang across the bridge of the UCS Liberty as Admiral Kate Morrison stared at the massive alien ships floating in the darkness beyond Earth's moon. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Kepler Station, where humanity had lost half its fleet in a single day. Now the Zephyrian Empire had come to finish what they started. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission," Captain Roy Henderson said, his voice tight with worry. The young officer had aged years in the past few months, watching friends die in the cold vacuum of space. Morrison nodded grimly. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature that looked like a massive insect crossed with a machine. Its 4 red eyes glowed with cold intelligence, and metal tubes ran along its chitinous face like veins. This was Overlord Vexithera, commander of the Zephyrian fleet. "Humans," the alien spoke, its voice like grinding metal. "Your resistance ends now. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Lower your shields, disable your weapons, and prepare for absorption into the Empire. If you refuse, we will destroy every living thing on your world." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in deadly silence. Morrison looked around at her officers, seeing fear and desperation in their eyes. Outside the viewports, the alien ships waited like hungry wolves. There were hundreds of them, each one larger than Earth's biggest battleship. "What are our options?" Morrison asked. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster pulled up tactical displays. "Not good, Admiral. Our remaining ships are scattered across 12 systems. It would take weeks to gather enough force to even attempt a defense. The orbital platforms around Earth are still being repaired from the last attack." Morrison closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 7 billion lives pressing down on her shoulders. How could she tell humanity that their time was up? That after centuries of reaching for the stars, they would become slaves to an alien empire? "Admiral," a new voice called from the bridge entrance. Dr. Lisa Carter, head of the Coalition's Advanced Weapons Division, walked quickly toward them. She carried a sealed briefcase and looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Doctor, unless you have a miracle in that case, I don't think there's anything we can do," Morrison said. Carter set the briefcase on the tactical table and entered her security code. "Maybe I do have a miracle, Admiral. Tell me, have you ever heard of Project Nightfall?" Morrison shook her head. "Never. What is it?" 5 years ago, when we first detected Zephyrian scouts in our territory, a small group of scientists and engineers started working on something special. We knew that if the aliens ever came in force, our regular ships wouldn't stand a chance. So we built something different. Carter opened the briefcase, revealing detailed plans for ships unlike anything Morrison had ever seen. They were sleek and angular, covered in strange dark metal that seemed to bend light around it. "We call it the Black Fleet," Carter continued. 12 ships built in secret beneath the lunar surface. They use dark matter cloaking technology that makes them completely invisible to sensors. But that's not the best part. Captain Henderson leaned forward, studying the designs. "What else can they do?" "They can phase shift," Carter said with a small smile. "For a few seconds at a time, these ships can move between dimensions. Enemy weapons pass right through them, but they can still fire back." Morrison felt a spark of hope for the first time in months. "Where are these ships now? Are they ready for combat?" "They're hidden in launch bays on the far side of the moon. Each one has a crew of 30, all volunteers who've been training in secret. The squadron leader is Commander Jake Sullivan, one of our best pilots." A new figure appeared on the bridge, a tall man with steady eyes and the confident walk of someone who had spent years in space. Commander Sullivan saluted Morrison before speaking. "Admiral, my pilots are ready. We've been training for this moment since the project began. The ships are fueled and armed with quantum torpedoes and gravitational pulse weapons." Morrison looked at the plans again, her mind racing. "How many enemy ships can you handle?" "Unknown, Admiral. We've never faced real combat before. The technology works perfectly in simulations, but actual battle conditions," Sullivan shrugged. "We'll find out." The bridge fell quiet as everyone considered the impossible situation. 72 hours to save humanity, and their only hope was 12 experimental ships with untested crews. "There's something else," Carter added quietly. "Our reconnaissance probes detected something disturbing about the Zephyrian fleet. Those aren't just warships out there. Some of them are terraforming vessels. Morrison's blood turned cold. Terraforming? You mean they plan to? Convert Earth's atmosphere and ecosystem to match their homeworld. Any humans who survive the conquest will be changed, turned into slave workers for the Empire. They've done it to 17 other species already. The weight of this revelation settled over the bridge like a heavy blanket. This wasn't just about military defeat, it was about the complete destruction of everything that made humans human. Morrison walked to the main viewport, looking out at the alien fleet. In the distance, Earth hung like a blue marble, peaceful and beautiful. Somewhere down there, children were playing in parks, families were sharing dinner, and lovers were watching the sunset. All of it would be gone in 3 days unless she made the hardest decision of her life. "Commander Sullivan," she said without turning around, "how long do you need to prepare your fleet?" 6 hours, Admiral. We need to run final system checks and brief the crews on enemy positions. Morrison nodded slowly. She thought about the billions of people counting on her, about the families she might be condemning to death if this desperate plan failed. But then she thought about what would happen if they simply surrendered. The slow death of humanity as a free species. "Do it," she said firmly. "Launch the Black Fleet. If we're going to die, we'll die fighting." Sullivan saluted again and turned to leave, but Morrison called after him. "Commander, what are your chances of success?" Sullivan paused at the bridge entrance, his face serious but determined. "Admiral, I won't lie to you. Most of us probably won't come back. But if we can hurt them badly enough, maybe Earth will have a chance to rebuild its defenses." After he left, Morrison remained at the viewport, watching the enemy ships patrol the edge of their solar system. In 6 hours, 12 invisible ships would slip past those patrols and strike at the heart of an alien empire. It was insane, impossible, and probably suicidal. It was also humanity's only hope. Carter joined her at the viewport. "Do you think they can do it?" Morrison was quiet for a long moment. "I think human beings are capable of amazing things when their backs are against the wall, Doctor. We're about to find out just how amazing." Commander Jake Sullivan floated in the pilot seat of the UCS Wraith, watching the final countdown on his display. Around him, the bridge hummed with quiet activity as his crew made last-minute preparations. Through the reinforced viewports, he could see the other 11 ships of the Black Fleet, preparing to launch from their hidden bays deep beneath the lunar surface. "All systems green." "Commander," Lieutenant Sarah Kim reported from the navigation station. "Dark matter cloak is functioning perfectly." Sullivan nodded and opened a channel to the other ships. "Black Fleet, this is Wraith. Sound off." One by one, the voices of his fellow commanders came through the comm system. Captain Roy Henderson commanding the Shadow Walker, Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster on the Night Phantom, and 9 others. All volunteers who knew they might not see another sunrise. "All ships report ready." "Wraith," Henderson's steady voice confirmed. "Waiting for your signal." Sullivan took a deep breath, thinking about the impossible mission ahead of them. Their orders were simple: gather intelligence on the Zephyrian fleet and find weaknesses they could exploit. The problem was that no human had ever gotten close enough to study alien ships without being destroyed. "Launch when ready," Sullivan commanded. "Remember, we're ghosts out there. Silent running until we reach the target zone." The Wraith slipped out of its hidden bay like a shadow, its dark matter cloak bending light and gravity around the sleek hull. One by one, the other ships followed, invisible to any sensors the aliens might be using. To anyone watching, the launch bays appeared completely empty. Dr. Lisa Carter watched from the hidden command center buried deep in the moon's rock. Banks of monitors showed her the vital signs of each ship, though she couldn't see the vessels themselves. The cloaking technology worked so well that even friendly sensors couldn't detect them. "How are the phase shift drives holding up?" Admiral Morrison asked over the secure comm link from the Liberty. "Perfect so far," Carter replied, studying the energy readings. "The dark matter containment fields are stable, and the quantum resonance chambers are operating within normal parameters." Meanwhile, Captain Henderson guided the Shadow Walker through the outer patrol zone, where Zephyrian scout ships prowled between the planets like hunting sharks. The alien vessels were massive things that looked more like living creatures than machines, with hulls that pulsed and writhed as if breathing. Look at those things, Sergeant Tony Blake whispered from the Marine station. He was a veteran of a dozen battles, but the sight of the Zephyrian ships made his skin crawl. They're not just ships, they're alive. Henderson watched his sensors as they passed within a few hundred meters of an alien patrol. The creatures, he couldn't think of them as just ships anymore, showed no sign of detecting the Shadow Walker. The cloaking system was working perfectly. All stations prepare for phase shift test, Henderson announced. We need to make sure this technology works before we get in too deep. The Shadow Walker's hull began to shimmer as the phase shift drive engaged. For exactly 3 seconds, the ship existed partially in another dimension, becoming translucent like a ghost. During those 3 seconds, they were completely untouchable. Energy weapons would pass right through them, and solid objects couldn't make contact. Phase shift complete, the engineering officer reported. All systems nominal. We could do that about 50 more times before the drive needs to recharge. Henderson smiled grimly. 50 chances to become untouchable in a fight. It might be enough if they were lucky. Lieutenant Commander Foster was having her own adventures aboard the Night Phantom, weaving between asteroids in the outer belt while observing alien supply ships. These vessels were different from the warships, larger, slower, and filled with strange equipment she didn't recognize. Commander, are you seeing this? Her science officer called from his station. Those supply ships aren't carrying weapons or food. The energy signatures are all wrong. Foster studied the sensor readings, frowning. What do you think they are? Best guess? Atmospheric processors. Equipment designed to change the air and soil composition of a planet. The horrible truth hit Foster like a physical blow. The aliens weren't planning to just conquer Earth. They were going to transform it into something that could support their kind of life. Any humans who survived would find themselves breathing poison air on a world that no longer belonged to them. Get detailed scans of those processors, she ordered. We need to know how they work. Sullivan's Wraith had penetrated deepest into the enemy formation, close enough to study their command ship. The vessel was enormous, larger than anything humanity had ever built, and it pulsed with a sickly green light that seemed to come from within its living hull. That's their flagship, Lieutenant Kim observed. The consuming darkness, according to our intelligence reports. Sullivan watched the massive ship through his tactical scope, noting the way smaller vessels moved around it in precise formations. Notice how they all seem to move together, like they're connected somehow. A hive mind, the science officer confirmed. Our xenobiologists theorize that the Zephyrians might use some kind of psychic network to coordinate their fleets. If that's true, their command ship would be the central brain, which means if we could damage or destroy it. Sullivan left the thought unfinished. But everyone on the bridge understood. Cut off the head of the snake and the body would die. As the hours passed, the Black Fleet gathered more and more intelligence about their enemies. They learned that the alien ships had thick armor that could resist most conventional weapons, but their living hulls were vulnerable to certain types of energy that disrupted biological functions. They discovered that the Zephyrians relied heavily on their hive mind communication, which made them fast and efficient, but also potentially vulnerable to disruption. Most importantly, they confirmed that the aliens were indeed preparing to terraform Earth. Massive atmospheric processors were already being positioned around the planet, ready to begin converting the atmosphere as soon as resistance ended. We've got what we came for, Sullivan announced over the fleet channel. All ships begin withdrawal to Rally Point Alpha. But as the Black Fleet began to slip away from the alien formation, something went wrong. The Night Phantom's phase shift drive developed a malfunction, causing the ship to flicker in and out of visibility like a strobe light. I'm losing cloak integrity, Foster reported, her voice tight with worry. Engineering is trying to compensate, but I don't think they can fix it out here. Sullivan watched his tactical display as several Zephyrian patrol ships began moving toward Foster's position. The aliens couldn't see the Night Phantom directly, but they were detecting the gravitational disturbances caused by the malfunctioning drive. All ships, prepare for emergency extraction, Sullivan ordered. We're not leaving anyone behind. Henderson's Shadow Walker was closest to Foster's position. Night Phantom, I'm coming to get you. Prepare to dock for emergency repairs. Negative, Shadow Walker, Foster replied. You'll compromise your own stealth. I can handle this, but even as she spoke, the alien patrol ships were closing in, their biomechanical sensors sweeping the area where the Night Phantom was struggling with its damaged systems. Sullivan made a command decision that would change everything. All ships, new orders. We're not running anymore. It's time to show these aliens what humanity can do. The first battle of the Black Fleet was about to begin, and the fate of Earth hung in the balance. 12 invisible ships against an alien empire. The odds were impossible, but that had never stopped humans before. In the hidden command center on Luna, Dr. Carter watched the tactical displays with growing alarm. The careful reconnaissance mission was about to become a desperate fight for survival, and there was nothing she could do but watch and pray. The first shot of humanity's desperate war came from Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster's Night Phantom. With her stealth systems failing and 3 Zephyrian patrol ships closing in, she had no choice but to fight. Quantum torpedoes locked on target, her weapons officer announced. Firing! The strange blue-white missiles streaked through space, their exotic matter warheads designed to disrupt the molecular bonds in alien bioarmor. The first torpedo struck a Zephyrian patrol ship dead center, and the result was spectacular. The living hull writhed and screamed. Actually screamed, a sound that carried through the vacuum on radio frequencies as its organic components began dissolving. Direct hit. Foster shouted. The quantum torpedoes work. They're tearing that thing apart from the inside. But her victory cry was short-lived. The other 2 patrol ships opened fire with their bioplasma cannons, sending streams of living fire toward her position. Foster hit the phase shift controls just in time, and the deadly energy passed harmlessly through her translucent ship. Commander Jake Sullivan watched from the Wraith as the first real battle between humans and Zephyrians began. All ships engage at will. Show them what the Black Fleet can do. The invisible human ships struck like ghosts from the darkness. Captain Roy Henderson's Shadow Walker materialized directly beneath a Zephyrian cruiser, its gravitational pulse weapons sending ripples of twisted space-time through the alien vessel's hull. The biomechanical armor cracked and split as gravity waves tore it apart from within. This is impossible, Sergeant Tony Blake shouted from his battle station as he watched enemy ships dying all around them. They can't even see us coming. Henderson smiled grimly as he guided the Shadow Walker through the chaos. That's the point, Sergeant. We're fighting like humans, smart, sneaky, and completely unpredictable. The Zephyrians had never faced an enemy like this before. Their hive-mind communication system was designed for coordinated attacks against visible targets, not invisible ships that could phase in and out of reality at will. Their bioplasma weapons, so effective against conventional armor, were useless against opponents who could become intangible. Aboard the massive flagship consuming darkness, Overlord Vexithara watched the tactical displays with growing fury. In the span of 10 minutes, the humans had destroyed or disabled 15 of his ships, and his forces couldn't even locate the attackers. How are they doing this? He demanded, his 4 red eyes blazing with rage. Our sensors detect nothing. It's as if they're attacking from another dimension. His tactical officer, a smaller version of himself with cybernetic implants covering half his face, studied the energy readings. My lord, we're detecting brief quantum disturbances at each attack site. The humans appear to have developed some form of dimensional shifting technology. Vexithara's mandibles clicked together in anger. According to their intelligence, humanity was a primitive species barely capable of faster-than-light travel. How had they developed such advanced technology in just a few years? Meanwhile, Sullivan's Wraith had penetrated deep into the enemy formation, targeting their command and control vessels. The ship's experimental AI system, which the crew had nicknamed Oracle, was processing battle data faster than any human mind could handle. Oracle is identifying priority targets, Lieutenant Sarah Kim reported. Those communication relay ships, if we take them out, we can disrupt their hive mind network. Sullivan nodded and opened fire with the Wraith's full weapons array. Quantum torpedoes and gravitational pulses struck the Zephyrian relay ship simultaneously, causing cascading failures throughout their communication system. Suddenly, alien ships began moving erratically, their perfect coordination broken. It's working, Foster's voice crackled over the comm from the Night Phantom. Their formation is falling apart, but the Zephyrians were adapting faster than anyone expected. Overlord Vexithara had ordered his ships to fire randomly into empty space, hoping to hit the invisible human vessels by luck. Worse, they had called for reinforcements from their outer patrol groups. New contacts on long-range sensors, Kim reported with worry in her voice. 47 additional Zephyrian ships inbound. Estimated arrival in 30 minutes. Sullivan realized they had achieved their main objective, proving that the Black Fleet could hurt the aliens, but staying to fight would be suicide. All ships begin withdrawal pattern Delta. We've done enough damage for one day. However, Sergeant Blake had other ideas. His sensors had detected something important aboard one of the disabled Zephyrian ships. Captain Henderson, I'm reading life support failures on that cruiser. But there are also intact data cores. If we could board that ship, Henderson understood immediately. Intelligence about Zephyrian technology, fleet positions and battle plans could be invaluable. Blake, take your Marines and get whatever you can. You have 10 minutes before we have to run. Blake and his assault team used the Shadowwalker's transport pods to cross to the dying alien ship. The Zephyrian cruiser was a nightmare of organic corridors and pulsing biomechanical systems. The walls were lined with veins that carried nutrients and data throughout the vessel, and the floor felt spongy under their boots. This place gives me the creeps, Corporal Lisa Martinez muttered as they moved through the alien corridors. It's like we're inside some giant animal. Blake led them toward the ship's data core, following the thickest concentration of neural pathways. Along the way, they encountered wounded Zephyrian crew members, insect-like beings with multiple arms and glowing cybernetic implants. The creatures were more machine than animal, their bodies modified with technology that human science barely understood. Don't let them touch you, Blake warned his team. Our intelligence reports say they can inject neural parasites through their claws. They reached the data core just as the ship's immune system began responding to their presence. The wall started secreting an acidic substance designed to dissolve foreign organisms, and spider-like defense drones emerged from hidden chambers. Work fast, Martinez, Blake shouted as he opened fire on the approaching drones. Download everything you can. Martinez plugged her portable computer into the alien data system, using specially designed interface cables that Dr. Carter had created. The download began, but it was slow. Zephyrian data storage was incredibly dense and complex. 30 seconds. Martinez called out. The system is fighting me, but I'm getting something. Blake and his Marines held off waves of defense drones while the download continued. Their weapons were effective against the biomechanical creatures, but more kept coming. The ship's immune system was fully active now, treating the human invaders like a virus to be eliminated. Time's up. Henderson's voice crackled over their comm units. The reinforcements are almost here. Blake made the hardest decision of his military career. Martinez, we go now with whatever you got. Everyone back to the transport pods. They fought their way back through the dying ship, carrying precious intelligence data that might give humanity a fighting chance. As their transport pods docked with the Shadowwalker, Blake looked back at the alien vessel and saw it dissolving from within, its own immune system destroying what remained after the human attack. The Black Fleet withdrew from the battle zone just as the Zephyrian reinforcements arrived. They had lost no ships, but several had suffered damage that would require repairs before the next engagement. As Sullivan's Wraith led the invisible fleet back toward their hidden lunar bases, he opened a channel to Admiral Morrison on the Liberty. Mission accomplished, Admiral. The aliens can be hurt, and we've proven that stealth technology works in combat. Morrison's relief was evident in her voice. Casualties? None dead, but we have wounded. More importantly, Sergeant Blake recovered intelligence data from a disabled enemy ship. Dr. Carter should analyze it immediately. In the depths of the Lunar Command Center, Carter was already studying the preliminary data that Martinez had managed to download. What she found made her blood run cold. The Zephyrians weren't just planning to terraform Earth. They had detailed biological profiles of human physiology, genetic mapping, and conversion protocols. They weren't planning to simply kill humanity. They were planning to transform humans into something else, to make them into organic components of their empire. The 17 other species they had conquered hadn't been destroyed. They had been absorbed, their consciousness and identity stripped away to serve the collective. Admiral, Carter said quietly over the secure channel, we need to talk. What Blake found? It changes everything. This isn't just a war for survival anymore. It's a fight for the very soul of our species. The first battle was over, but the real war was just beginning. Overlord Vexithara stood in the central command chamber of the consuming darkness, his 4 red eyes studying tactical displays that showed the impossible, an enemy that could strike without being seen. Around him, His subordinates worked frantically to adapt their strategies to face humanity's invisible fleet. The humans destroyed 23 of our vessels in their first attack, his tactical officer reported. But we have learned something important about their technology. Vexathara's mandibles clicked impatiently. Explain. Their phase-shifting ability leaves quantum signatures in space-time. We cannot see the ships themselves, but we can detect the disturbances they create. Our scientists are developing new sensor arrays that can track these signatures. This was exactly what Dr. Lisa Carter had feared when she designed the Black Fleet's stealth systems. In her hidden laboratory beneath the lunar surface, she studied the data that Sergeant Blake had recovered from the Zephyrian ship, and what she found was terrifying. They're adapting faster than we expected, she told Admiral Morrison over the secure channel. The aliens have already begun modifying their sensors. Our invisibility advantage might only last a few more days. Morrison paced the bridge of the Liberty, watching enemy ships patrol the edges of Earth's solar system. How long before they can track our ships reliably? Unknown, Carter replied. But I'm working on countermeasures. The real problem is that they're bringing in specialized hunter-killer ships from other parts of their empire. These vessels are designed specifically to hunt invisible targets. Meanwhile, Commander Jake Sullivan led the Black Fleet on their second mission, a reconnaissance strike against the Zephyrian supply lines. They needed to understand how the aliens were supporting such a massive fleet so far from their home territory. Captain Roy Henderson's Shadow Walker slipped through the asteroid belt, tracking a convoy of alien supply ships toward their hidden depot. The facility was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, its biomechanical structures growing like a cancer through the rock. Look at that thing, Henderson muttered as he watched the alien base through his tactical scope. They're not just using the asteroid, they're transforming it into part of their fleet. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster's Night Phantom had been repaired and was operating normally again. She positioned her ship near the asteroid's equator, scanning the facility's defenses. I count at least 50 ships docked inside, plus automated defense systems. This isn't just a supply depot, it's a major fleet base. Sullivan's Wraith took point position as the Black Fleet prepared to strike. Oracle analyzed the target and identified critical systems. The ship's AI processed sensor data within human speed. Primary target identified. The central neural nexus controls all automated systems. Secondary targets: fuel processing facilities and ship construction bays. Recommend simultaneous strike to maximize damage. But as the human ships moved into attack position, something went wrong. New contacts appeared on their sensors. Sleek, predatory vessels that moved with purpose directly toward their positions. Hunter-killers, Sullivan announced grimly. They found us. The Zephyrian hunter ships were unlike anything the aliens had used before. Instead of the bulky biomechanical designs of their main fleet, these vessels were streamlined and fast, covered with sensor arrays that painted space with invisible beams designed to detect quantum disturbances. They're scanning for our phase shift signatures, Foster reported as her ship's stealth system strained under the alien sensor barrage. I don't think our cloaking will hold much longer. Henderson had an idea. If they're tracking quantum disturbances, what if we give them too many to follow? He activated his phase shift drive repeatedly, creating multiple false signatures throughout the asteroid field. Other Black Fleet ships followed his lead, phase shifting randomly to confuse the enemy sensors. The hunter-killers hesitated, uncertain which signals to follow. But the tactic had a dangerous side effect. Each phase shift drained power from their stealth systems. We can't keep this up much longer, Sullivan realized. All ships prepare for combat. We're not running from this fight. The battle that followed was unlike the first engagement. The Zephyrian hunters knew where the human ships were and had weapons designed to hurt them. Bioplasma cannons fired in spread patterns, creating walls of destructive energy that the Black Fleet had to navigate carefully. Sergeant Tony Blake watched from his station aboard the Shadow Walker as tracer fire lit up the space around them. These aren't like the regular alien ships. They're built for this kind of fight. Henderson nodded, guiding his ship through a deadly maze of enemy fire. Then we better show them that humans are built for fighting too. The Shadow Walker phase shifted directly behind one of the hunter ships, appearing inside its defensive formation. Henderson's gravitational pulse weapons tore through the alien's rear armor before it could react. crippling its engines and sending it tumbling into the asteroid field. Foster's Night Phantom used a different tactic, staying partially phased to avoid enemy fire, while launching quantum torpedoes at long range. The exotic weapons proved just as effective against the hunters as they had against regular Zephyrian ships, causing their biomechanical systems to break down at the molecular level. But Sullivan had a bigger problem. His Wraith was being stalked by the largest of the hunter ships, a predator that seemed to anticipate his every move. No matter how he maneuvered, the alien vessel stayed on his tail, its weapons getting closer with each shot. "This pilot is different," Lieutenant Sarah Kim observed. "It's learning our tactics in real time." Sullivan realized they were facing something new, a Zephyrian commander who had studied human behavior and was adapting to counter their strategies. "Oracle, analyze enemy movement patterns. Find me a weakness." The AI worked frantically as Sullivan dodged another spread of bioplasma fire. "Enemy vessel shows irregular neural activity, consistent with independent thought processes. Recommend psychological warfare tactics." Sullivan smiled grimly. "You mean make it angry and force it to make mistakes." He opened a channel on alien communication frequencies and began transmitting Earth music, loud, chaotic rock and roll that would drive the orderly Zephyrian mind to distraction. The effect was immediate. The hunter ship's precise movements became erratic as its pilot struggled to block out the alien sounds. Sullivan took advantage of the confusion to phase shift directly above his pursuer and fire every weapon he had. The combined firepower of quantum, torpedoes, and gravitational pulses overwhelmed the hunter's shields and tore through its hull. The alien ship broke apart in a spectacular explosion that lit up the asteroid field. "That's for trying to make us extinct," Sullivan muttered as he watched the wreckage drift past his viewport. With the hunters destroyed or disabled, the Black Fleet was free to attack the supply depot. They struck with everything they had, targeting the neural nexus and critical facilities that kept the base operational. Henderson's Marines even managed another boarding action, recovering more intelligence data and destroying key equipment. But the victory came at a cost. The UCS Dark Star had suffered critical damage from a lucky hit and was forced to withdraw to a hidden repair facility. Worse, the extended combat had revealed more about their capabilities to enemy sensors. As the Black Fleet returned to their lunar bases, Sullivan knew that their war of stealth and surprise was entering a new phase. The Zephyrians were learning to fight invisible opponents, and future battles would be much harder. Dr. Carter met them at the debriefing, her face grave with worry. "The intelligence data you recovered confirms our worst fears. The aliens have called for massive reinforcements, not just ships, but specialized anti-stealth technology from across their empire." Admiral Morrison joined the briefing via secure channel from the Liberty. "How long do we have before they arrive?" "Less than 48 hours, Carter replied. 3 additional battle fleets plus support vessels carrying new sensor equipment. When they get here, our stealth advantage will be gone completely." Sullivan looked around at his fellow commanders, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. They had struck 2 successful blows against the alien empire, proving that humanity would not go quietly into extinction. "Then we better make our next move count," he said quietly, "because after this we'll be fighting them ship to ship and the odds will be impossible." Henderson leaned forward in his chair. "What are you thinking, Jake?" Sullivan turned to Dr. Carter. "How many of our ships could you convert into quantum bombs? The kind that would take out half their fleet if they all detonated at once?" Carter's face went pale. "All of them, theoretically. But the crews would be volunteers," Sullivan finished. "Every one of us signed up knowing we might not come home. If we're going to die anyway when those reinforcements arrive, we might as well make it count." The room fell silent as everyone considered what he was proposing, a suicide mission that would either save humanity or ensure that Earth went down fighting. It was insane, desperate, and probably their only chance. In the darkness of space, alien reinforcements raced toward Earth, carrying technology that would make the Black Fleet visible to their enemies. Time was running out for humanity's invisible warriors. Admiral Kate Morrison stood in the command center buried deep beneath the lunar surface, watching the tactical displays that showed humanity's last hope, preparing for their final mission. The 11 surviving ships of the Black Fleet hung in space like sleeping ghosts, their hulls modified with Dr. Lisa Carter's most dangerous invention. "Are you certain this will work?" Morrison asked, though she already knew the answer would not comfort her. Carter adjusted her calculations on the main screen, showing the quantum cascade effect that would result from 11 phase shift drives detonating simultaneously. The theoretical models are solid, Admiral. When the drives overload, they'll create tears in spacetime itself. The dimensional feedback should propagate through the Zephyrian hive mind network, disrupting every ship connected to their psychic web. Morrison nodded grimly. The plan was elegant in its simplicity and horrifying in its cost. Each Black Fleet ship would become a suicide bomb, guided by volunteers who knew they would never see Earth again. Commander Jake Sullivan floated in the pilot seat of the Wraith, making final preparations for Operation Quantum Thunder. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces calm despite the knowledge of what lay ahead. "All systems modified and ready, Commander," Lieutenant Sarah Kim reported. "The quantum resonance chambers are armed. Once we begin the detonation sequence, we'll have exactly 90 seconds to reach our target positions." Sullivan opened a channel to the other ships. "Black Fleet, this is Wraith. Final systems check before we begin the approach." One by one, his fellow commanders reported their readiness. Captain Roy Henderson's voice was steady as always. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster sounded determined, and the others echoed their commitment to the mission. These were the best of humanity, brave souls willing to die so their species might live. "Remember," Sullivan continued, "we need to penetrate as deep into their formation as possible before detonation. The closer we are to their command ships, the more effective the cascade will be." In the depths of the alien flagship consuming darkness, Overlord Vexithera studied reports from his newly arrived hunter fleets. The specialized anti-stealth vessels had deployed advanced sensor nets throughout the solar system, making it impossible for invisible ships to move undetected. "The humans have been silent for 18 hours, his tactical officer reported. "Our sensors detect no movement from their hidden bases." Vexithara's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "They are planning something. Double the patrol schedules and prepare all ships for immediate combat." But the Overlord's preparations could not account for what humanity was about to unleash. The Black Fleet had waited until the alien reinforcements were fully integrated into the main formation, bringing together the largest concentration of Zephyrian ships ever assembled. "Initiating launch sequence," Sullivan announced, as the Wraith slipped from its hidden bay. "All ships engage quantum resonance drives. We go in hot and we go in together." The 11 ships of the Black Fleet materialized directly in the heart of the Zephyrian formation, their quantum-armed drives already building toward critical overload. The aliens' new sensors detected them immediately, but detection no longer mattered. The humans had committed to their final attack. Captain Henderson's Shadow Walker appeared inside the launch bay of a massive Zephyrian battleship, its presence causing alarms to scream throughout the alien vessel. 60 seconds to detonation," he announced to his crew. "It's been an honor serving with all of you." Sergeant Tony Blake and his Marines had volunteered to conduct one final boarding action, using their last precious seconds to plant additional charges on critical alien systems. They fought through corridors swarming with Zephyrian warriors, their weapons blazing as they pushed toward the ship's neural center. "For Earth," Blake shouted as he set the final explosive charges. Around him, alien defenders closed in with claws and bioweapons, but it was too late to stop the humans from completing their mission. Foster's Night Phantom phase shifted through the armor of 3 enemy ships simultaneously, her quantum drive creating massive disruptions in their biomechanical systems. Even before her ship's final detonation, the exotic energy was tearing apart alien hulls from within. 30 seconds. Sullivan called over the fleet channel as the Wraith dove toward the consuming darkness itself. The massive flagship's defenses opened fire with everything they had, but the human ship was already committed to its final dive. Lieutenant Kim watched the countdown on her display, thinking about the family she would never see again and the world she was dying to protect. "Commander, it's been an honor." Sullivan nodded, his hands steady on the controls as enemy fire blazed around them. "The honor has been mine, Lieutenant. All of you. You've shown the universe what humanity is capable of." Overlord Vexthara realized what was happening just moments before the first detonation. "Emergency dispersal." All ships break formation immediately. But it was too late. Henderson's Shadow Walker reached critical overload first, its quantum drive tearing a hole in reality itself. The dimensional cascade began as spacetime rippled outward from the explosion, carrying exotic energies that interfaced directly with the Zephyrian hive mind network. One by one, the other Black Fleet ships followed, their coordinated detonations creating a web of quantum destruction that spread through the alien formation like wildfire. Each explosion fed the others, building toward a crescendo that would be visible from Earth itself. Dr. Carter watched from her lunar observatory as space around Earth lit up with impossible colors, the light of other dimensions bleeding through into normal reality. The cascade is propagating exactly as predicted, she reported to Admiral Morrison. It's reaching every ship in their network. The effect on the Zephyrian fleet was catastrophic. Ships that had been perfectly coordinated moments before began colliding with each other as their hive-mind connection shattered. Bioplasma weapons fired randomly, striking friend and enemy alike. The rigid hierarchy that had made the aliens so effective became their weakness as confusion spread through every vessel. But the quantum cascade didn't stop with the local fleet. The dimensional energies followed the psychic connections back through the Zephyrian communication network, reaching across space to every ship in their expanding empire. From the outer colonies to the home fleet, alien vessels lost coordination simultaneously. Vexithara felt the network dying around him as the consuming darkness shuddered under quantum bombardment from Sullivan's Wraith. The human ship had penetrated deep into his flagship's hull before detonating, and now exotic matter was eating through his ship's biomechanical systems like acid. Impossible, he gasped as his command center filled with toxic smoke and failing systems. A primitive species cannot defeat the Empire. But as the Overlord died in the ruins of his flagship, the evidence of human capability burned around him. 11 ships and their brave crews had crippled an empire that spanned dozens of star systems. On Earth, President Helen Martinez watched the battle through telescopic displays, tears streaming down her face as she realized what the Black Fleet had accomplished. The alien formation was breaking apart, ships fleeing in random directions as their command structure collapsed. Admiral Morrison's voice crackled over the communication system from the Liberty. All remaining Terran forces advance and engage. The aliens are in full retreat. The few surviving human ships, damaged cruisers and patrol boats that had been hiding throughout the solar system, emerged from their hiding places to harass the fleeing Zephyrian fleet. It wasn't much of a force, but it was enough to ensure the aliens kept running. Dr. Carter stood in her laboratory, surrounded by the empty displays that had once monitored the Black Fleet. The quantum signatures were gone, leaving only silence where once there had been the heartbeats of humanity's bravest warriors. They did it, she whispered. They actually did it. In the weeks that followed, as humanity began to rebuild and plan for the future, messages arrived from across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire's collapse had freed 17 enslaved species, each one eager to join with Earth in a new alliance dedicated to freedom and mutual defense. The Black Fleet Memorial was built from recovered hull fragments of the UCS Shadow Walker, its twisted metal serving as a reminder of the price of victory. Engraved on its base were the names of every crew member who had given their lives in humanity's darkest hour. Commander Jake Sullivan, Captain Roy Henderson, Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster, Sergeant Tony Blake, and all the others. Their sacrifice had not only saved Earth but sparked a rebellion that would reshape the galaxy. Standing before the memorial on its dedication day, Admiral Morrison read the inscription that would inspire future generations. When the Empire demanded surrender, humanity answered with thunder. These brave souls chose to light a candle rather than curse the darkness, and their flame will burn eternal. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, built on the foundation, laid by 12 invisible ships and their crews who refused to let their species die quietly. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger, proving that courage and sacrifice could overcome any odds. In the depths of space, automated distress beacons still transmitted from